Happy New Year, everyone! I hope you all had a wonderful start into 2024 and celebrated with your family or friends. I am super excited for this new year because I have so many things planned. First and foremost, I will focus on my studies, of course. If any of my teachers are listening, probably not. But I will travel a lot as well. Also, I'm more excited than ever to stay on track with my art journey because, as I explained in my latest videos, I really do need art in my life to cope with this stressful world, especially after my art slump last year. I will try not to fall into that again this year. So, today I have an art supply haul for you. Yay! I love doing these so much. I ordered some art supplies online from my favorite local art store right before Christmas with all these crazy discounts going on. And now it's finally time to try them out. After the unboxing, I also have a little practice painting for you, so stay tuned for that. So let's see what we got here. It's not the biggest haul, admittedly, but still cost me around 100 euros to be honest. Art supplies are so freaking expensive. Because especially these Daniel Smith colors are so super expensive. I don't know honestly how people can own the whole range in tube form without going into debt. So I ordered some special shaped brushes to try out just because I was curious how these would work compared to a normal round brush I use usually. I also got this Liquitex Acrylic Ink bottle in the color muted pink. I do own a few acrylic inks already, as I have been doing mixed media art with them before, and I feel like I want to try that out again this year. So I'm excited to try this one out. Then I got this big 33 pan watercolor palette from Mijello. I have been looking for a bigger palette to create a special watercolor palette with that for a while now. I hope I'll get around to do that video soon. I really love these Mijello palettes, especially the 18 pan one, as they are super good quality and fairly affordable. Then I got this big flat watercolor brush. I intend to use this to prime the paper with water. I always use a tiny brush to wet the whole paper, and then it gets uneven and a little streaky and it takes too long. You can see that in almost all of my videos up until now, and I want to change that. Then for the highlight, I got 5 new Daniel Smith watercolor tubes. Yay! We've got Quinacridone Burnt Orange, Quinacridone Gold, Opera Pink, Manganese Blue Hue, and Carbazole Violet. I hope I pronounced all of these correctly. Let me know. Lastly, I got this A4 format watercolor sketchbook, and yeah, I know. I already own so many unfinished sketchbooks, as I explained before. I think at this point you could call it an addiction. I saw online that Canson is releasing a new sketchbook line, an affordable student-grade sketchbook line for different media. So I really wanted to try out the watercolor sketchbook to see if it's a good alternative to other more expensive brands. So now it's time to swatch these new colors. I'm very curious to see how these colors compare to the ones I already own, especially for the Quinacridone Burnt Orange and Quinacridone Gold. It could be an alternative to the yellows and orange I already have and use in my main palette. And the Manganese Blue Hue looked interesting as an alternative for my Cerulean Blue Chromium, which is in almost every custom palette I've made so far, because I couldn't find a light blue alternative for this one yet. I also got the Opera Pink, because I only have it in a half pan form from Schminke, which I used in my All About Purple video to mix the most vibrant purples. It was amazing. So after that video, I knew I had to add it to my collection permanently in tube form. Lastly, I got the Carbazole Violet because I own very few pure violet pigments. Mainly because you can mix violets very easily, as you can see in my All About Purple video. But a pure violet pigment can also be used to create other interesting mixes, like mixed with green for example. So I want to try that out as well. For the swatch page I prepared, I also left a little space at the bottom to compare the new Daniel Smith colors with similar or the same pigments I already own to see how they compare. Then I took out the top mixing pan from my main watercolor palette, which is the aforementioned 18 pan one from Mijello. The mixing pan is transparent, which I find super useful. I put a bit from each color on the pan and then proceeded to swatch them. The Quinacridone Gold really lives up to its name. Highly saturated, it's more close to an orange, but mixed with enough water, it has this golden yellow hue. I really like it. The PY 150 yellow pigment is transparent yellow, a neutral yellow, but with the PO 48, I would say it shifts more towards a warm yellow. The Quinacridone Burnt Orange is really beautiful and I already love it. I think this could be super useful in a lot of different mixes. It reminds me of Burnt Sienna a lot, so later I swatched a little bit of the Burnt Sienna I own from Daniel Smith on the side to compare it. I didn't really expect the Carbazole Violet to be this intense. I mean, it's really intense. Highly saturated, it's almost black, and you have to add a lot of water to get the purple to shine through. The manganese blue hue is truly lovely, but the paint doesn't really yield much, so I had to refill the mixing pan constantly. It's got a beautiful, subtle granulation effect, and the blue really shines, almost like a phthalo blue. The Opera Pink surprised me a bit, because it wasn't as similar as the one I already known, as you'll see later when the paints have dried. It is really intense and bright and also granulates slightly. And I know this will yield beautiful and bright mixes. Lastly, I put some colors for comparison at the bottom. I was especially curious how the manganese blue hue PB15 would compare to the Heliocerulean blue PB15:3, which I got in my past art haul video. Because while the pigment number can be helpful to know what's actually in your paint, it can also be quite misleading for a beginner like me. For additional comparison, I put the PY 150 yellow pigment next to Quinacridone Gold, Burnt Sienna next to the Quinacridone Burnt Orange, and Cerulean Blue Chromium from my main palette next to the Manganese Blue hue. In the end, I'm really glad with the selection of colors. The Quinacridone Gold could be a beautiful addition to my palette. The Quinacridone Burnt Orange could be a non-granulating alternative to Burnt Sienna. The Carbazole Violet is intriguing, the Manganese Blue hue is stunning, and the Opera Pink can add a nice pop of brightness and color to mixes. Now for the tragedy of the day. I also swatched the acrylic inks, but I accidentally forgot to press the record button, so all the beautiful footage of me dropping the ink on the paper, which is honestly so satisfying to watch, never got recorded. So, I only have the results to show you, sadly, but I will try to get back to that in a later video at least. To try out my new colors, I thought about using the new Canson sketchbook, but because I had a sketch I started a few days before that I hadn't finished yet but really liked so far, I thought we could use that. So first I finished the sketching, where I used a red and blue mechanical pencil, which I think works really well with watercolors. Then I wanted to start coloring the sketch, but somehow the tube from the manganese blue hue leaked or broke and it made a huge mess that I had to clean up first. For the painting, I tried to highlight all of the new colors. So I started with the first layer of the manganese blue hue, carbazole violet, and opera pink to lay down the base colors. Because this sketchbook has normal sketch paper and not watercolor paper, it was a bit difficult to work with because I couldn't use any wet and wet techniques that I'm more used to. I used the Quinacridone Gold and Quinacridone Burnt Orange in the skin and hair color as well. And I gotta say, I really liked how this painting evolved. All the colors worked beautifully together, and the finished painting looked super cute. Also, I love painting curly hair. It's so much more fun than straight hair. I made sure to include the Quinacridone Burnt Orange in the hair color as well, and added two of my brown colors from my main palette for the depth. Lastly, and as always, I added the finer details with colored pencils and fineliners to finish the painting. I feel like a broken record, but adding these final small details with a colored pencil that matches the painting or a fine liner, either black or brown, really adds to the depth of the painting. And here we have it. I'm super excited about this one, to be honest. After my long break from doing art, it's so satisfying to come back and, well, I feel like the art is arting again. I love these new Daniel Smith watercolors I bought, and I will definitely include them in future paintings as well. Thank you all so much for watching my videos. It brings me so much joy to read all your lovely comments. It almost feels like I'm not doing this alone anymore, and I got some companions at my side now. Thanks so much for being here with me, and I wish you a wonderful start into 2024. Bye bye!